thank you everyone for coming to the Digital Twin panel. Today I'm excited to present and to talk about digital twins with fantastic professors, colleagues, and now friends. Today, as I said, since it's digital twin, I want to give you a little bit of a framework of how we're going to address this subject. So digital twins, this panel, the field of digital twin is evolving rapidly. And today we're going to focus on how these technologies apply across various scales, from the scale of the human anatomy to a citywide infrastructure. Digital twins combine real-time data, simulations, and AI to create virtual replicas of physical systems, enabling better decision-making, predictive modeling, and efficiency across domains. So in order to understand how to build digital twins, I created kind of an overall map of what are the things that we need to consider. So there are aspects that are technical, that are digital or technological, and that are physical. So in the part of the theoretical, we first need to create a protocol or a structure to define what are digital twins. And we have to also think about what are the difference from other ontological or reductive models like BIM or GIS that are now widely used in our fields. And then as well, if you go to the digital or technological realm, there are, as I suggest, 4 ways to use technology. The first way to use it is by working with predictive models or artificial intelligence models, using search engines, generators, or simulators. These are the 3 ways that I can see that you can use AI into digital twins. Another way is to build something that I call data translators, because there are already well-established simulator or mathematical models that have been proven to be successful to simulate or predict specific phenomena. How do we translate that into a digital twin environment, and how we're able to link different scales as we do? The third important thing is about creating a 3D environment that is accurate to represent the physical asset. And the last one on the technological part is the idea of a feedback loop or a feedback flow that allows something that we call a bi-directional data connection. So these are the 3 ways that we have to think about how technology can enable us to make digital twins. In the physical realm, and this is what we're going to be talking today, I propose that we can think of digital twins at different scales. So the scale of small scale, the medium scale, and the large scale, and that's what this panel is about. So why do we talk about digital twins at UF? It's because we have a computational power that is here, and we can leverage for computer graphics, computer vision, for different AI applications that are helpful for us to create these digital environments, which could eventually become something like an intelligent environment that is able to react to human input. So I want to celebrate our colleagues' work, and I want to celebrate today's idea of how to use digital twin at these different scales. So we're going to start to the first scale, which is the small scale, and I'll call to the podium Professor Jorg Peters, and he's representing his team as well.
Hey, thank you, Carla. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this panel because I was curious what my colleagues are doing that is somewhat similar to what I'm doing, and yeah, maybe also discover what I'm doing. You know, my work is so secret, even though I don't know what I'm doing. So let me see whether I can press the button here and get full.
The arrows. Use the arrows.
Use the arrows. Which of the many arrows? Ah, the keyboard arrows. Okay. Very good. Okay. So if you ever wanted to see what in detail I'm doing, you can click on those QR codes. So I come originally out of approximation theory and then interactive computer graphics. And the advantage of that is that I can create little videos quite nicely and create all the digital, beautiful effects that make things potentially look good, even if they, no, never mind. So I create a lot of surfaces. Some of these are actually now being used by designers out there in industry to create car models, for example. And I compute on these surfaces in other manifolds, fancy name for volumes and surfaces. And so this is, for example, a model, and it's computed the heat distribution as it flows on your bicycle helmet, which you will be familiar with from Florida. The whole point of all of this is real time. All of this is, I always want this interactive. And so even our surgical simulation, that I'll show you a little more of that, is real time so that you have, well, actually force feedback interactive. The only thing that isn't real time is my latest foray, which is to actually deal with large data and geometric machine learning. I always sit there and twiddle until things are trained and yeah. Okay, so that's an overview of just where I come from so you understand what I'm doing. So let's focus on the surgical simulation. And so this is originally to help people to work with laparoscopy and do the surgical practice or training before you go to the patient. And so we had some interface, and so let's look at, let's see whether this clicks here. Does it? It does, but then I don't know how to go back. We'll find out. So this would be a little bit sped up, but real time. So we have a simulation, and remember the digital twin is not just simulation. This is a simulation created for.
Wait a second. Can I do something?
You want it large. You don't want to see all the.
We're not seeing it on the screen.
Oh, we're not seeing it on the screen. Oh, so this is half as exciting as.
Oh, he went into something.
Yeah.
You've got it in extended mode, so.
Well, much cooler when you actually see what's going on. Yeah. Beats. Okay. So this is your gallbladder being worked on with removing your gallbladder, and you see that if you put your cut in the wrong place, for example, like we're seeing here right now, where we cut it turns red, so that the person who's training on this gets an immediate feedback that things are going wrong. I'm not going to play this too long. You can guess what it is. But the point is, this is real time. This is solving the partial differential equations underneath, and it is it's changing partial differential equations because the boundary conditions are obviously changing because you're removing material and things are moving at different speeds. Now let me see whether I can get out of this here and back to.
I can do it.
Yes. And we do this, create this big. Okay, very good. Not me.
That's his YouTube video, I think.
Killed.
The YouTube just went to the next video.
Oh, thank you so much. And it certainly woke me up. I don't know about you, but whew. So here we are. And the point of the whole thing was that we had, should I do it again?
Okay.
Should probably embed those videos to make it more. Am I running over your 5 minutes allotted? Okay, I'll speak twice as fast and accelerate the videos. Thank you. So the point was that you can actually create these, what you just saw as a simulation, you can actually create this by filling out a form essentially. If this is cholecystectomy, you have certain steps in it. It involves certain objects, anatomy that you're interfacing with, and that can make changes to the interactive environment. And so you author this before, so it's an authoring device. And this is actually a very poor rendition because it's WebGL. It's just on your screen, on your browser, to get to see what you actually have. And then you start the whole thing and you get into the surgical simulation that you saw a moment ago. This is just to show that this is real computer science. You know, you have black screens with white writing on it, very boring. And so you saw at the very end that you had the starting of this simulation. So again, all of this is not digital twin because it's only doing one side of the equation. It's creating a model and it's simulating on the model. And what we're really wanting to get to is this process where we actually have a physical patient. In this case, these are MRI slices of the pelvis, and this is about rectal cancer. And so the idea here is now, can you get from DICOM data to via 3D environment to a clean geometry, which would be this over here, the far right, where you can then export it to the surgical simulation. And then you have closed the loop, you have a patient-specific anatomy, and you can do simulation on that, or you can simply show it to the involved people here, the cancer team or the patient. And the tricky part is to go from here to there. How do you get from a very messy MRI that even radiologists have a difficult time interpreting to something that's so clean and possibly not fully correct? But the point here is that it's correct enough so that people get a better impression of what's going on and they can correct it. The whole idea of digital twin is that you have a cycle, that you make a statement, this is the model, and then if the model is slightly off, which it always will be in a real patient, you correct it for the next stage. And of course, the real idea behind it is you use the same differential equations to see tumor growth at what speed and what will it impinge, what are the other parts of the body that might be affected next. And that's it. Thank you.
Hello, so I'm the next on the small scale. My name is Joel Harley, and I'll say a lot of my work is kind of inspired by, in my PhD, I was an electrical and computer engineering student. I had an advisor who was very computational, very model-driven, but I worked with a lot of civil engineers. So as I went through my PhD, I heard these two sides. I had my advisor who was saying, let's build these intricate, nice models to understand these effects and these things. And then I had these civil engineers who were experimentalists who said, oh, don't trust any of those models. Just look at the data and understand what the data is saying. And a lot of that inspired me to question, why don't these two sides really work together? Why can't we get models and data to tell us, the same thing to some degree? Because in many cases, the models are wrong, but still necessary. So this is a general flowchart of a digital twin. And if you think about it, so I have digital twin there of a physical system. In general, how we've done science for a long time, hundreds of years, that's just a model, right? And we use models usually to make decisions about healthcare, engineering, things that we're going to do. And then ignoring the collect and ignore that AI personalization, we usually collect data and we use that to validate our model, right? We say, oh, the data agrees with our model is correct, at least to some degree, right? So where the digital twin comes in is these two other arrows. The AI personalization, which says, why don't we not just validate our model? Let's actually make the model better with the data that we collect. How can we make our model better than it is right now? And then the collect part, let's do some action based on that. Let's collect more data to make our model even better, right? So the digital twin idea is really this sort of feedback loop. How do I make my models better? And how do I collect data to make them better? And my big interest in my group is really on this AI personalization concept of how do we use AI to go from data that we collect to personalize models. And sometimes these models are very complicated, much more complicated than generally we can understand. And I'm going to give two kind of examples. I'm not going to spend too much time. I don't have super complicated videos. But this is the basic premise of the work that we do. So one of these, so this is some work with my colleague at University of Florida, Jennifer Nichols, whose picture is up on the top. So the basic idea is we have lots of models of human anatomy, the human musculoskeletal system. And we can see, if I adjust this part of the musculoskeletal system, I remove a bone, I do some surgery, I do all this planning, which related to what Jorg was just talking about, how does that affect the rest of the body? How does that affect our range of motion? How does that affect how we live our daily lives? And we can model that. Is it accurate, though, is a question. Hard to say. It is accurate to some degree. How can we improve that? So how do we build some sort of feedback loop in which we have a project in which we're basically collecting a lot of data. The general gist of this idea was can we go to people and we can say, can you go into a clinic and just press a button with your finger? And from pressing a button, can we build a model of your hand, right? So we've been, for the last several years, basically collecting experiments of people just pressing buttons, collecting all the data, the force. It becomes a three-dimensional force vector. It's not a little bit more complicated than just pressing a button, obviously. Can we use that to train a model that then gets integrated with these complex, very complex musculoskeletal models that exist in the literature? Can we then make this musculoskeletal model the same as you pressing that button? Can we learn the parameters of that model? And then, looking forward into that, how can we use that information to make decisions, right? How do we use that? I guess that's the next slide. How do we use that to make patient-specific diagnoses, prognoses? Can we do this for surgical planning, right? Because all of this plays into your health overall. Understanding root causes of different musculoskeletal diseases and understanding, the effects of interventions. If I do some surgery, that does affect us. In general, we don't know how that affects us. We have some ideas, but most of these are kind of based on rather basic sort of aggregate models of the entire population, or at least the population that has been studied. So this is one particular example of ways that we can personalize a digital twin and the value it can have to healthcare. Now there's a lot of different discussions on healthcare up here. A slightly more different talk is another one that is of interest to me. I also do work with material science and engineering. My main collaborator is Michael Tonks up there. And this is asking, it's a very similar problem, has almost a very similar setup, but in a very different field, which is interesting. So this all started with material scientists who are interested in what is happening to a material at the microscale level. There's this notion of grains, which are basically just atoms all lined in a row within the material itself. And if you heat up these materials, the grains change over time. You watch them evolve, or could watch them evolve in theory. Only very recently, material scientists have been able to actually watch these grains evolve. So there have been theories for a long time how they are. They've been able to look at them statistically and say, yes, they match. They look good. All of our theory, all of our models are right. And then once they started actually being able to watch them in real time, they found that models were wrong, more or less. The models needed improvement, and no one knows currently what the problem with the models are. So we have a project on how do we use AI to try to understand this physics. There's currently unknown physics. Can I use the AI to do it? So we have experimental facilities here where we're collecting data from these materials, measuring how they evolve over time, using that to train a machine learning model, and using that to go into this, now it says musculoskeletal model, material system model, excuse me, and seeing how it evolves over time. And this is the key to building new materials, right? If I want to improve the strength of a material, if I want to improve the conductivity, if I want to be at the edge of new semiconductor technologies, we need the AI to help us understand the basic physics, the basic science behind these materials that we frankly don't entirely understand. It can also be used for improving safety. There's actually a lot of evidence showing that some critical failures in, say, airplanes have been involved with just microstructure characteristics of materials being not quite what we want them to be. And that causes something to fail way before its life. And generally, it improves our basic understanding of material science and helping us move forward. So a lot of my work is how do we use AI to help us with these fundamental studies, not just kind of building big things, but also looking into the small things. So thank you.
So we are shifting to medium scale, and we're going to feature two projects at the medium scale. The first one is a project that it's led in the College of Design, Construction, and Planning, and I have my collaborators also joining today the discussion. And this is to create a University of Florida campus as a digital twin. So just to feature a little bit of what this project is about, is led by 4 professors at the College of Design, Construction, and Planning, is supported by David Norton and Elias Elderly. Sorry. Eric, from UFIT, and then we also have PhD students working on this project as well. So what is to create a UF digital twin? So we first have to come to the idea of a metaverse, which is the joinery of different digital twin buildings. And in order to do this, we have to set up the background. So they cannot exist independently. So we are collecting data on the 3D environment of campus, of UF campus. And then what we're doing here is that this environment, this 3D environment, is going to be streamed through a platform that is called Omniverse. And this is something that we're testing right now. This is one of the applications that we're trying to push forward as how can we leverage digital twins for the particular use of construction management. And what we're doing right now, we are creating a set of protocols of how can we bring every building at a different building life cycle to a digital twin state. So buildings that are on the design, on the feasibility, buildings that are on the construction, that have already been built, how can we create this set of protocols that can help us get there? So one of the examples of the buildings that we're considering on this exercise is the DCP Collaboratory. And the first thing that we did, of course, we had to get the whole campus, and we have to situate this building on the campus itself. And what is interesting here is that this building, and I'm gonna just show you a little video, fast forward as well, because what we're doing here is that we're, back. So we are running the DCP Collaboratory in Hypergator, and we're using Omniverse to do this. And what I'm gonna show you here is that we are, one of the main points of this project is that we wanted to be able to load IoT data sets onto the digital twin environment, and we were showing how successful we are with this. So I'm gonna just try to move forward very quickly, which is not working. I've played this video 100 times, and today it doesn't want to play, so bear with me. Come on. You see, it's not reacting. All right, another try. So since this is a digital twin panel, you'll figure out that we have about 10 or probably 15 high resolution videos on this one PowerPoint, which means that my life and the life of my computer, it's been threatened by not being able to play a single video. All right, I will not push it, so probably you will have to sit with me for the 3 minutes that this video takes, and then I'm gonna be fast forward to that. All right, so we pull up the Omniverse Composer, the Omniverse Nucleus on Hypergator, and what you will see here is the 3D environment where the building sits. And here, one of the things that we're doing now, we're doing a live demo where we are pulling IoT data. That's the gray box there. So here we're getting data from temperature and occupancy. Then now what we're doing, we're adding the furniture layer, and then we're also adding the landscape layer. So there are different things that we need to consider. So there is not only the building, but there are other elements that are influencing how we're perceiving. We are implementing this tool that allows us to just see by levels whatever we want to see. So we want to see first floor, second floor, we're able to cut through. That is very helpful as a tool to navigate the environment. So some of the things that we wanted to emphasize is that there are already developed applications and tools that we wanted to just list it as something that we call an essential tools that we need to have in order to work with digital twins. What you're seeing here is a temperature visualization. So we are reading the data from the IoT sensor, and then we are mapping that into a color code, which is telling us at the time that the data is getting into the model, how the room felt, if it is cold or warm. The second thing is that we wanted to also run a simulation model, like in this case, sun, simulations. So we partner with Celsium to collect the, you can set up the time, the date, and the place, and then the sun will be exactly as it should be on that particular place. Why this is important, though it feels very banal to say we're gonna simulate the sun, but this is something that is proven. If we want to simulate any other physical phenomena, it's possible, because we're not only trying to do this one physical phenomena, we want to do more other physical phenomena together with IoT data at the same time. And that's what is the key point here, because we're not only aggregating different scales, we're also aggregating different time lapses as saying IoT data and physical phenomena simulation. All right, so I'm sure I'm more. Do I have time? Okay. So how do we apply this? If we're talking about the building life cycle, I mentioned that there is the feasibility stage where we don't really have a building yet. So here, the digital part of the digital twin is very strong. So what I'm showing here is a project that is not from DCP, but is being developed by DCP researchers. So here on the screen, you're seeing how budget has been assigned to specific areas of the building. And this is really important when you're trying to showcase how the sponsorship worked. And then when you're trying to fundraise money, because sometimes there is some codes that can be used for particular areas and not for other areas. So this is a very quick way to see where the money is being used. And this is even before you finish your project. Right. Another case study, which is that we are conducting right now, since the DCP collaboratory is being under construction, is something called real-time monitoring of the digital twin. So here we are going on site regularly to collect data as images or point cloud models through laser scanners, and we are embedding these into the digital model. Why this is helpful is when the building is built, you can always go back to historical data to see what was happening at the time when they had to create or build the wall, or when they were doing the electric cabling. So this can help us also keep track not only of failures, because we could monitor every or some of the assets within the building, but can help us also when we have to do remodelation or demolition, which are two of the most not underseen life cycles stages that there is right now. And the other thing which we're pushing right now, and we have Dr. Srinivasan here, this is how do we create a real-time energy management control. We know right now that we need to be efficient in energy consumption, but how? Can we keep track of this? And this is the bi-directional data connection that we're trying to push here, is that if we're able to get a connection from, for example, the building, the physical building to the digital one, if I turn off the lights in the digital one, the ones on the physical are turned off. Can we get to that moment? And can we calculate how can we be efficient? And so we're creating a composer for Omniverse that is leveraging a platform called Energy Plus that will lead us to that situation. So I just wanted to feature the work. This work is from my colleague at the Dean, Chimay Anumba. This is the work that we're doing with my colleague Raymond Issa, and the work that we're doing with my colleague Ravi Srinivasan. So with that, I'll introduce Professor Azra.
Shall I be the only speaker who doesn't mess up the video? The only non-engineer. Okay, this is Mac. Thank you. I hope you can see everything. First of all, I want to welcome our guest, Mr. Malakowski. Thank you so much. You enabled a lot of work presented here, and thank you all for attending. I am Azra Bihorek. I am a physician scientist and professor of medicine and surgery at the College of Medicine, where I also serve as a senior associate dean for research, and I'm also co-directing Intelligent Clinical Care Center and lead a big lab with a lot of talented computer scientists who have worked with me together on this project. My research always began at the patient's bedside, focusing on real-world medical challenges. I'm a kidney specialist and also surgical intensivist. I work in surgical ICU. I took care of many patients who developed serious complications after surgery and required life support in intensive care unit where I work. On average, Americans undergo 7 surgical operations in their lifetime. I already have 8. I'm better than average. And with over 1.5 million experiencing major complications after surgery and 150,000 fatalities. This is 5 years old data. Perioperative medicine accounts for 40% of our expenditure for medical. So obviously this is a huge problem. So question I asked myself a long time ago when I started my career was, is zero complication surgery achievable? Can we use technology to optimize the care of surgical patients by making our decisions smarter, more precise, and personalized to each patient's unique risk profile? I began my research as in AI in 2016, at the beginning of my career, asking these questions, and I was privileged to receive a large grant from National Institute of Health to develop a real-time decision intelligence platform to help surgeons minimize post-surgical complications. We trained our first algorithms on a single GPU unit that was educational grant from NVIDIA. We wrote a little grant and got that GPU that still lives in one of the computers in my lab. Well, fast forward 7 years, and now we can actually augment physicians' and patients' decisions in real time. Our goal is to translate medical data into actionable insights about prognosis, diagnosis, and treatments right at the patient bedside, really. Really, without computational power of the hypergator, we probably would not be able to gather this large amount of multimodal data from hundreds and millions of visits at the University of Florida and train these models, then deploy them at the clinical sites and test them in real-world settings, and asking questions or addressing and answering questions such as, is my patient getting better? Or will I recover after surgery? These are the things that we really want to address in our research. But then we wanted to put really boundaries even further. And why intelligent hospitals? Well, human perception is not only in the clinical data. We see, we sense, we smell. We really wanted to bring multisensory inputs into AI model. Most of the medical AI models are based on clinical data. So bringing that ambient intelligence was one of the next projects in evolution of our work. As you can see here, we seamlessly integrate wearables, video imaging, and pervasive sensor for secure, privacy-preserving remote monitoring of pain, agitation, mobility, and environment. We use something called environmental telemetry. We process these real-time data that streams at the patient bedside, again, using one of the NVIDIA's chips. So in operating room of the future, as you can see here, we will go even further. You will see how we will integrate really holistically many different type of data coming from multiple sources and bring them to really the next generation environment that not only surrounds you, but becomes part of you. And again, as I always say, in our intelligent hospitals of the future, we use AI to create superpowers for doctors and nurses and create AI agents who can act as their powerful sidekicks. I like to think about them as like that. But then why stop there? Why limiting this only to the physical environment? Can we cross the boundaries of physical environment, create digital metaverse where we can bring all these advances that we have to anyone in Florida or across the world? So the idea was to create several digital twins around the brain surgery and neurosurgery. There is a big specialty at the University of Florida. We created digital twin of ICU, digital twin of the operating room, and digital twin of neurosurgical patients. So I'm going to talk a little bit about of the work done here that is really done in a big collaboration with NVIDIA and Mark III. You can see here, we started with really breaking the physical barrier by creating replicas, geometric replica of physical space, connecting then these with the real-time data coming from ICU using hypergator Omniverse that lives in the hypergator, and then using it for different scenarios. I'm going to show you 2 here. The first is what I call virtual patient experience. Can you, as a patient, from the comfort of your home, get ready for the surgery? Become comfortable with an environment where you're going to be operated on, where you're going to be with, and can you actually interact with my sidekicks 24/7? They can be me with you all the time. So I'm going to show you some of the work here that is done first Mark III. Angelini is here. He created digital twin physical representation on ICU room. Do I have to click one more time? Yes? Okay, one more time. Here it is. You can see from the bird view, this is a neuro ICU, 42, fourth floor in an east tower. I hope the light is big enough. Every single room in that building is now mapped, and we are creating very granular details. This exactly looks like that. Now we have the simulation station in the Malakovsky Hall. You can put a VR and you can be in this environment, interact. But here you can just see the 2D of this very nicely done. Even with the gator pictures, it looks really like that. We are continuing to map every room with single details. We have a large rooms for storage of equipment that will connect with their real-time scanning codes. We have a library of the medications on the ICU. Every single time we'll have an input what is actually there on the floor. But then, what about patient experience? Now, we wanted to deploy in this environment our AI agent. And here is the first one. This is the first demo. So forgive me if it doesn't look or sound very cute, but I think it is. This is a real-time conversation with the agent. The patient is one of our coordinator, Andrea, who is going to attend medical school next year. She's going to converse with these patients being in real time. Click one more time. Brooke. Yes?
I'm Amanda, a virtual medical assistant here to help you with any questions or concerns about your neurosurgery and recovery.
I'm having a craniotomy surgery in about 2 weeks. How will I be monitored in the ICU after my stay?
After a craniotomy, your bedside nurse will perform frequent neurologic tests to evaluate your consciousness, pupillary response, and motor function. You'll also receive continuous monitoring for your heart rate, blood pressure, intracranial pressure, and oxygen saturation. By doing so, the ICU staff can catch any complications early on and intervene as needed.
Is that what the black monitor above the bed is used for?
Yes, the monitor displays your continuous vital signs on the screen. I went ahead and turned it on for you.
You can see how she turns the monitor.
Thank you for answering all of my questions, Amanda. I feel better about my surgery. And I'll reach out to you if I have any more questions.
So now think about that.
You're welcome, Alicia. I'm glad I could help.
This monitor now can display any real-time data, any type of data at the University of Florida. So I can actually use this hospital not only for patient experience or for training from anywhere where I am, but I can also use this place as a really, what I call human-certified medical-grade AI testing simulation lab. Because everywhere in the world, every doctor will be able to put a VR set and look at the AI application running on this monitor. So any developer will be able to test usability, how the humans perceive and experience these algorithms. And we are really excited about that. And again, one more time, I want to thank NVIDIA and Mark III for working with me, and thank you, Carla. Thanks.
All right. Large scale. Okay, all good, Carla. All right. Good morning, everyone. I realize that I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'll be as efficient as possible. It's really nice to see all of you. My name's Christine Angelini. I'm a professor in the College of Engineering, and I direct a program called the Center for Coastal Solutions here at the University of Florida. I want to take you all back to October 7th. How many of you are Floridians in the room? I think most of us are from the UF environment. And this is what we saw on the news, and this is what we were chronically refreshing sort of our news feeds about, is when and where is this storm going to hit us? And for all of us, that created a lot of anxiety. Do we need to go fill up our cars? Do we need to go shop? Do I have an elderly sort of, relative that's living on the coast that may be in a structure that may or may not be safe during this event? And so there was layers of anxiety for, I guarantee, every person living in the state of Florida associated with this event. So just kind of think about that a little bit of how we all felt as personal residents here. Now I want to you put yourselves in the shoes of a mayor.
in one of these coastal communities in western Florida that was in the bullseye of where Hurricane Milton was going to hit. All right, so you have a lot of decisions to make, and there's a lot coming at you. And your decisions depend on data. So decisions in the short term around, what is the demand for evacuations and how feasible is it to get various residents off of coastal communities and into inland areas of safety? What is the projected number of homes that are going to be destroyed and how many residents are going to be displaced? Where are those residents? Do they have places to go? Do I have shelters to put them in? And what is the capacity of our current health services? Do they have the capacity in-house to service these patients? Do we have the doctors that can show up to meet those needs? And then you're already thinking about the longer term implications of this, because all of these sort of mayors are dealing with these chronic events, which is around, what are the numbers of businesses that are going to close because of this event, and how many jobs are going to be lost? How many people's economic foundations are going to be affected? What is the magnitude and the scale of infrastructure repairs from our wastewater treatment plants to our bridges to our roads? And are we going to repair that infrastructure, or are we going to upgrade it? And those are big dollar numbers for us to kind of grapple with. And then the really complicated things around policy associated with zoning, and what are the tax implications? If we take people off of high vulnerability coastal areas, how does that affect our tax base and our ability to come and pay for all of these other expenses? And so we all feel these events, but imagine being the decision maker on the front lines of managing these decisions on behalf of the residents in our communities. And making these decisions is extremely difficult today because the data that services all these multifaceted decisions is highly fragmented, and we really have no capacity to visualize, what's going on today and what are my sort of potential actions or investments I can make in the future to sort of sustain the quality of life of my residents. And the consequences of this is that, Floridians are dealing with highly inefficient decisions by our policymakers and our elected leaders that are based on incomplete information. And this is a pervasive problem that affects every single community, county, our state government across the board. And, as we think about the magnitude of climate change, the sort of magnitude of implications of this for our individual lives grows. So imagine that you had all that information you needed to support your city's response at your fingertips, and it was really easy to see. So this is really, I think, for me, as a coastal scientist working on coastal solutions, that's been the motivation for us developing JAX Twin, which is an urban digital twin simulation system. Ultimately, we're striving to build this for the state of Florida, but we started with the city of Jacksonville. We had the good fortune of having a year of support over the last year coming from an investment from the President's strategic initiatives, the Office of Research, and UF Health. And to build such a simulation platform requires, a bold vision that's cumulatively shared by many of our faculty across the institution. In fact, this project that I'll be sharing with you engages 5 colleges and 11 academic units in deep collaboration with UF Research Computing, NVIDIA, and Deloitte. I've had the good pleasure of leading this project, but I've had some really great colleagues along the way, including Azra, and you can see how sort of magnificent she is and her capability. Alina Zaire, who I think is in the audience, and excellent expertise in AI, and Jeff Carney, who's not here today, but is a colleague from architecture and urban planning. And what I wanted to just highlight is Changjie Chen is on the panel here today, and so the work that I'm going to really showcase has been the heart and soul of his efforts, and a lot of late nights, I think, putting this work together. But really, I put this team of about 40 faculty together to operationalize 4 different work streams over the last year. One has been gathering user needs around what would a digital twin of this type of capacity look like. We've been integrating data and analyzing and harmonizing different streams of data that could support the mayor of the future here in the state of Florida. We've been modeling some of the critical hazards. And then today, just for sort of a soundbite and sort of a taste for what we've been accomplishing, we're going to be focusing on sharing with you an update on the simulations and the visualizations that we've been producing. And I just want to kind of call your attention to the fact that where we are today is the baby in diapers prototype of JAX Twin, but I'm really proud of the work that our team has accomplished over the last year. So how do we start to visualize essentially the cities across the state of Florida and put them to work in a digital twin format to support proactive decision making? So the first thing that we need to do is to build the digital replica, in our case, of the city of Jacksonville. So what you're seeing is a video of the high resolution LiDAR data that we pulled in to support building out the digital twin. We equip certain areas in the city where we want to kind of showcase the capabilities with what we call skins. So you can see downtown Jacksonville featured with kind of realistic skins of the building, so it has a realistic feel. We then need to create kind of key city features on top of that layer. So what this means is that we're actually taking that LiDAR, we're extracting individual buildings, and we're linking that to underlying data associated with those buildings. Say, what year are they built? And we do this across 32,000 buildings across the city of Jacksonville, and building this kind of web interface environment. Now we need to be able to build essentially features within this web interface that allows the decision maker of the future to be able to explore different types of information that are of interest to them. So what you're seeing here is, say, the mayor selecting on what's the effective year built of all of the residential properties in downtown Jacksonville. That's really important because, homes that were built before 2000 are a lot more vulnerable to building damage than more modern architectures here in the state. And so where we're going from this kind of, now that we've built this kind of this visualization system where you can efficiently toggle between different types of information in an intuitive way at whatever scale you're interested in, we're now working to simulate realistic scenarios to probe user needs. So what you're seeing in the video here is projected flooding event, and buildings are coded based on those that are flooded at various depths across the downtown corridor. This is a simulation of what we're working towards building in Jacksonville, but imagine that for various types of hazards, we can project, what will be flooded and what's the level of projected damage, say, to these homes, as well as information about the residents living in them. All right, so looking ahead, we're really excited to start to mature the functions and optimize the user experience of our digital twin. This might include streaming real-time data to monitor the condition of the city's various systems. You're seeing a simulation of traffic data. Support city planners in simulating planning decisions and what the consequences of those might be for everything from viewscapes to carbon sequestration or energy use. We can integrate things like spatial awareness into the digital twin, and Changjie has actually already operationalized this for our prototype this year, so we can explore if we're going to build new properties in the city, are they in flood zones, or what's their probability of flooding during different events. So you're seeing this building get scrolled across different surface elevations and in the building's vulnerability to flooding. And then we can put it into sort of what we call a temporal awareness mode, which is when and for how long might buildings within this community landscape, say, be flooded or under heat stress. And so this is just a snapshot. There's a lot of other work that's going into this digital twin, particularly related to healthcare and health outcomes, the distribution of affordable housing. But just to give you a sense that we are operationalizing building this rich visualization environment, and we have a long way to go in the future to sort of really putting this into the hands of decision makers here across the state. So. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or most likely Changjie for all the technical details. So thank you very much, and I'll hand it off to Carla.
Can we cut the screen? Can we share the screen? Do we have time for questions?
So thank you very much to our wonderful panel. If you'll hang out for just a moment more, we have a special guest with us today. From NVIDIA, one of its co-founders and an alumnus of the University of Florida, we have with us today Chris Malachowski. He's been a huge part of the 4.5 years we've spent building out infrastructure, teaching AI broadly, and we're delighted that he could be with us for AI Days, our opportunity to talk amongst ourselves and share. Chris, the floor is yours, and thanks for being here.
I've long believed that digital twins was the most powerful kind of change agent that's going to be felt by people from AI, not the individual things, but the fact that you can change the way development's done, the way research is done, the way experimentation is done. And in my engineering career, I remember drawing schematics by hand, and then the digital design tools showed up, and you could draw schematics digitally. And boy, what a pain in the neck! And you felt so unproductive for days and weeks, but then it was done. And then once you had this digital representation, it was so powerful, it was so reusable and redeployable and inspectable and all these things. And you could see the more than just the germs of them in the work you've done. You've done because you've got good models. And the fact is, you've got to get on that train. You've got to start developing those models so that the iteration that was talked about can happen. And it's hard, and the models aren't right, and they're frustrating in your work. But as you get them and as you improve them, they become so powerful and so insightful to help the people that are going to try to use these for insight and advancement to be used. So we've gone really far, and even this thing about the Jacksonville model. So it's being used for one application, but you can use it for so many things. And once you get it, you're going to integrate more data and more views and more ways of using it. Florida's got lots of coastline, lots of challenges, aging population, agriculture's being challenged, salt infusion in the aquifer. There's all these things that finally we can get a handle on. We can do better weather simulation, know where the storm's going to hit, not have these big cones of uncertainty. And all that's going to come from these type of models, these types of integration, and the ability to not only look at it, but to simulate it and do what ifs and do mitigation studies and so forth. So, it's impressive how far you've come. I believe you got I hope you're not tired, because there's a lot more to do. And all of the sponsors, I'm sure, are happy to be behind this, because this is good stuff for all of us. So thank you, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being with us. So I hope that our panelists will stay for a few minutes longer for questions. We do have lunch being served in the back of the room. So if you have questions, please come up to the front. That'll allow us to go ahead and move on with lunch. And then after lunch, I hope you'll be here for 1 o'clock. We have 3 different concurrent sessions, one on a technical session, one on policy, and one on AI teaching and learning. They're going to be in this room, the adjacent room. We'll put a map on the screen, and then a room right across the hall. So thank you as we break for lunch. I appreciate it.